Please welcome CAOC Political Director Leanne Trappy.
This award acknowledges long-standing dedication and extraordinary efforts on behalf of the causes and ideals of consumer attorneys of California. I can think of no one more deserving of this award than Steve Kazan. Now, we all know he's a great trial lawyer, brilliant, and a lion in the asbestos bar. But he was really so much more. What really sets Stephen apart is his dedication to protect and uphold the rights of working people. He has walked the halls of Sacramento and pounded the pavement at Capitol Hill, all the while taking on those who would take away workers' rights. And he's generous. He has supported so many of our political causes, and most importantly, he even takes my fundraising phone calls. But what I find most remarkable about Stephen is his character. I spoke with people in his law firm to get their sense of Stephen. And of course, they all talk about his famous dry wit. But here are some of the things they said about Stephen. He's caring, thoughtful, and forward-looking. He's principled. He's a softie and slightly offbeat. And my favorite, he is a real sweetheart. But what I know about Steve Kazan is he has seemingly boundless compassion for the people who he represents. Please join me in welcoming to the stage, Steve Kazan.
I can't see anything. I hope that people are still here. I'm very flattered and honored by this award. This really helps reverse a major insult I received this week in a court hearing in Charlotte, North Carolina, where a court had to approve the appointment of a creditors committee in the Georgia Pacific bankruptcy. The court's bankruptcy administrator introduced me in my absence at the approval hearing to the presiding judge as the grandfather of the asbestos bar. I'm still trying to figure out if that was a compliment or an insult, but I know tonight is purely a compliment. And I'm going to tell you for a minute how it is I fell in love with the California bar and the California courts. You probably can't tell, but I was born and raised on the East Coast and educated there, and there are those who say they could tell that, but maybe you can't. And my first law job 50 years ago was as an appellate lawyer for the Interstate Commerce Commission, and I defended their decisions in 3-judge district courts all over the United States for a couple of years. And in an early case where I came to California to argue just down the street at the federal building before 3 judges, I prepared assiduously. I mastered the record before the administrative agency. I wrote the brief. I reread all the cases. I annotated them. I had my binders and my notebooks, and I showed up for the argument. And after the appellant got kind of woodshedded a bit by the 3 judges, I rose in front of the court, hauled myself up, and said, "May it please the court." We were taught to do that then. And the presiding judge, Lloyd Burke, leaned forward and said words that have resonated with me ever since. He said, "Sonny, why don't you quit while you're ahead?" And on that day, I looked down at my notes and my piles of paper and thought for a minute about all the brilliant arguments I had crafted. And I said then, as I will say to you now, if there are no questions, I think I'll sit down.